So 9.04 says using confidential information for didactic or instructive purposes. This goes with portion A. Behavior analysts do not disclose personally identifiable information concerning their individual or organizational clients, research participants, or other recipients of their services that they obtain during the course of their work unless the person or organization has consented in writing or unless there is other legal authorization for doing so. Have you ever had a time when you felt disclosing certain information concerning a research participant was beneficial to what you were discussing?
So for this one, other than the age, diagnosis, and the setting, there's really not any other information that I felt beneficial to discuss in terms of the research projects that I've been to. I know it's good to make sure that you include everything possible that could help others in terms of replicating or using these kind of methods that would be good to know because those could be important variables in terms of like being able to use those methods. So, but other than that, I haven't really had any other information that I needed to disclose, like personal information at least.
Right. So part B talks about disguising confidential information and doing that whenever possible so they're not individually identifiable to others and so that discussions don't cause harm to the individual or the identifiable participants. Has there ever been a time where the circumstances presented made you compromise the privacy of a client that you've worked with?
So the only time that I could think of is whenever we're in grad school. We do have a class that basically we talk about the progress of the research studies. So unfortunately, in that setting, you have a lot of people that you work with and that are in the same center or using the same space when you do your research projects. So whenever you would present a graph, and even though you would disguise the name, a lot of people would be able to be like, oh yeah, it's so and so, the one with the hair, or the one with, start naming certain characteristics, and then suddenly the privacy of the client no longer is private because a lot of people know that client or have seen them around in the center. So I think that was the only time when, because you are sharing information, you are in a grad school setting where you are talking about, your progress. So it gets a little bit complicated, especially because all of them know you and know what you're doing and see you on a daily basis.
Right. Okay, so the next part, subcode 9.05, talks about debriefing. Can you tell us what debriefing with the participant entails?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty straightforward answer. So obviously before the study begins, you want to let your participants know that a debriefing will occur at the end. And I think typically the function of this debriefing is if you, like for some studies, it's important to withhold information so it doesn't influence your responding. So you don't really tell them the true purpose, which could be, I guess, also known as a deceptive kind of study. It sounds like in behavior analysis we don't do that often, but that would be information that you'd want to give them at the end of the study so they kind of have full knowledge of what everything was and they got a chance to ask questions. So at the end of the study, you would do a debriefing and give them the information that you didn't give them in the beginning and give them an opportunity to ask questions. So basically they don't feel like you're being dishonest or sneaky when the results come out. And I believe you would do this whether or not it was a deception or deceptive study. So you can give that opportunity to your participants to know what it was about and what came out of it and all that. So.
Very cool. Subcode 9.06 talks about grant and journal reviews. It says behavior analysts who serve on a grant review panels or as manuscript reviewers avoid conducting any research described in grant proposals or manuscripts that they reviewed except as replications fully crediting the prior researchers. Does this include research that was started prior to reviewing the grant proposal?
So I would answer yes, in the sense that you want to make sure, like, I know, like, maybe you're, doing a research that's very similar to the one that you're reading in a manuscript that you're reviewing or a grant that you're reviewing. But honestly, like, two different researchers will think differently and do things differently, and so you just want to make sure that you are not, taking the techniques that you read and then suddenly applying it to your research, especially if they're very similar. But it's really important whenever you do take that role as a reviewer to not kind of take those ideas because just because you have a chance to read them doesn't mean you have a chance to take their ideas. But maybe you can collaborate with that person and say like, hey, like I really like how you did this. I'm doing something similar, and then maybe you can get something out of that, and making sure then maybe citing them because they had that idea. But yeah, I would definitely include it.
Well, that brings us to our next point. Do you feel like plagiarism is an issue that is prevalent within behavior analysis?
I think Sam kind of hit that a little bit. Is that I guess to answer the question, I think a lot of the written stuff that we know, like copy and pasting, or paraphrasing, but I think unintentionally for thoughts and ideas that, especially when you're doing research, you're reading so many articles that have to do with the topic of your choice, that sometimes it can be hard to pinpoint where you got those ideas, so you may unintentionally plagiarizing.
For sure. I know sometimes all the articles get mixed up in my head, and I'm like, wait a second, did I get that from here, or did, like you were saying, did I come up with that in my head and I have no idea where I got it from?
Yeah.
Or you read it from like 5 articles ago.
Yeah, seriously. You have to kind of backtrack. Okay, where did I actually get this from? Okay, so subcode 9.08 talks about acknowledging contributions. Behavior analysts acknowledge the contributions of others to research by including them as co-authors or footnoting their contributions, and etc. Do you feel it difficult to cite the contribution of others in every single circumstance?
So I haven't had a lot of experience with this. This is the only person that was involved in my stuff. Was my supervisor. She did enough to be co-author if it was published. But I think this kind of thing, like those things are talked about ahead of time. So indicating what activities and behaviors would make you an author, or just a citation.
How do you identify what is of enough importance for it to be cited?
The process is, again, we talked about it ahead of time. Write down activities and behaviors, like even to the most minuscule kind of things, like not the data collection is minuscule, but data collection and preparing materials, like every little bit, and then using that information and kind of breaking